So here's my user terminal for the Raspberry Pi web server I set up. That's the Raspberry Pi right there. It has SSH enabled on it, which I am going to be demonstrating right now. So here we have my Mac terminal. I'm going to log into it via SSH. So here we have, I'm just going to type in, actually it's here, SSH, a little blurry, but SSH Pi at my IP address. So if I enter, it's going to ask me for a password. So I can type in my password, and there we go, we are logged in. So that's just demonstrating the SSH enabled on it. So I'll X out of that. I'm going to use the monitor for the rest of this video. So on here, I have, on my web server, I have a LAMP stack implemented. It's Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. MySQL is basically allows it to store information locally. So I'll demonstrate that. Going into MySQL, I have this MySQL-u root-p. Ask me for a password. So I input my password. And here I am. Within MySQL, I have a database named initial test right there. So I'm going to use that database. It says database change to that. And then I'm going to go to my table that is within it, which I have sensor values. So I'm going to select all from it, and I'm going to display it. So this is my data that is being locally stored on it. In order for my app to get it, I have to have a PHP file which translates it to a better format that is readable by the app. So I will show you that. So I misspelled exit. So now I will go to my PHP file. There it is. It's testdata.php. So for this, I just have that $db MySQL connect. It's basically connecting with a couple parameters which were initialized up top, and then if it connects, it's commented out, but it used to echo and say connection made successfully. When I was writing this, that's how I knew that my connection was being made successfully. It didn't connect, it killed the file, and it said no connection was made. Down here we have, after the echo, we're selecting our database. So the database is saved up, so it was initial test, like I said. And then right below that, we have our while loop, which basically goes through and saves every single element in the table into the row, and then the row gets saved into an empty array, and the empty array is declared just above the while loop. And finally, down there, it's echo JSON encode imp array. Basically, it's taking that array, encoding into JSON format, and outputting it onto the web page, which I will show in a minute, and I shall show right now. So we'll exit out of here and clear it. So just empty screen. Now we are on our computer. Pull up the internet, and we can access, I named it pi.access.com. I changed my local host name to that. And then it's going to be data test data.php. As you can see, it's pulled up as a JSON file. So this JSON file, when we access this web page via the app, we'll be able to pull it, and the app will know what is going on with it. And as you can see, we have the keys as sensors a key and values a key, and then we have four different instances of that for the 4 different sensors. So here's our app. We are importing UIKit. UIKit is just a bunch of classes that Apple gives to all developers, and we're using UI view control and making a subclass. And within it, I'll get back to what this IB outlet is, but basically that's connecting to the button that is going to be on our app, that when we click it, we'll get our data. So then we go down, and I'll show you the functions now. And the functions are going to be down here. And so the first one is get data at the URL. You can see we get it at the URL, and we have InSURL session is the class that you use to pull data from the internet, and basically if the data is good, it just passes it back to result data, and if it's bad, we print an error. This is my second function, which is data serialization. So once we've passed in the data, we're going to serialize it, and each time that it's going to go through to this class InSJSON serialization, we have the dot all of object with data. That's just a function within it, and pretty much what we're going to do is going to compare the data, and if it is a string, so compare the input data, and if it's a string, we are going to take that item and save it into sensor if the key is sensor, because we have sensor and value are the two keys. So if the key is sensor, then we're going to save it into sensor and print that out. And if the key is value, and it's a string, we're going to save it into value, and then we'll print that value out. And this is just basically if there's an error, it will output that there was an error. So going up back to our code, we have basically whenever the button, this is the button right here, which is connected, or I'll go up to the first one actually. So this one is linking it. The UI button is the variable type, and it is of name getDataButton. So we're gonna, this line just renames the getDataButton from button to getData, and then this is just kind of the syntax for whenever you have set title for the data. And self is just calling this class, where the class is view controller. So then we can go down to here, where we have another function where function button for data tapped, and the input is just the UI button. So if the button gets hit, what we're going to do is we're going to let the URL equal this guy, which is where our data is, and it's going to be a string, and we're going to convert it into this using this InSURL, because the down in the getData@URL function, whenever it's right here, it uses this InSURL session, and that requires an InSData. So that's why we're doing that. So if we go back to it, or sorry, not InSData for it, it's InSURL. So then we get the data, and it's going to output the result data. So then we can pass into data serialization, and as result data, and we got to unpack it before we can use it. So I will now run this, and we will see how it works. So here's the app simulator. So this is just the output of the app, and on here we're just going to wait for it to load. There it is. So it's all loaded up. Now if we hit get data, as you can see it's empty right there, and we hit get data, and right there we have our data from our MySQL database. 4 keys and 4 values for the keys. And this is how the client can receive it, and that is the extent of this. In order to basically, if we were to have the client always receiving data, we can just have it, instead of having it click, because right, I'll see if I can show you. It just clicked and it got more and more. So if you create a function that continuously just gets data, you'll always receive it. And then if you have like I showed you the function here, where you can just hit get data, that's where the user will be able to pick when they want the data going in, or to be displayed within the app. And for the rest of my milestones, I will be I think milestone 3 is creating the actual user interface where everything is set up. This is the basic skeleton in order to have communication between the app and the web server.